how to set up board.
Your board members generally on the foundation will be one of two types. One that can donate and fund, one that can bring access to funding. There's organizations and there's these fundraising professionals. Some of them are companies and some of them are individuals.
What are those mistakes that they could have made?
The biggest one is misuse, not using the funds for the purposes intended. Obviously fraud, misstating, misrepresenting on their tax returns. Those organizations can get in trouble.
Want to help your community by starting a nonprofit? Today we are joined by the man who literally writes the rules for the industries that build our world. Rolf Vasami is the Chief Strategy Officer at Kellen, a global association management company where he provides strategic oversight for a global powerhouse representing approximately 100 associations worldwide that touch 10,000 member companies. With a rare dual background in engineering and law, Rolf doesn't just navigate compliance, he architects it. He spent over 20 years at the helm of the organizations like the BHMA, which just celebrated 100 years in setting safety standards. When the safety organizations need to know if the policy is actually able to be implemented, Rolf is the one they call. He's also a member of New York State Bar. He has been featured on several media outlets related to association industry and nonprofit organizations. If you think your nonprofit has a compliance hurdle, wait until you hear how Rolf managed a regulatory shift that impacted 80% of the entire multi-billion-dollar market. Buckle up. This is the masterclass you have been waiting for. Let's welcome Rolf Vasami. Rolf, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
From that prolonged experience, what are the top red flags do you see? What are those blind spots that people forget to take care of and then may go into trouble or have gone into trouble in your experience? And what do you want to suggest to other founders of nonprofits that like how to execute it correctly?
Well, first off, thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Pleasure meeting you during the summit. I've been with Kellen Company now for 22 years. We have 200 employees. So we touch a wide range of not-for-profit organizations. Some of them will be trade associations, membership groups, professional societies, charities, foundations. I think the number one item today that all associations are searching for in that realm is really relevant, is maintaining relevance within their communities, relevance with their customers, with their members, with the audiences that they have, and those that in philanthropic organizations for those communities that they serve. Many times philanthropic non-for-profits are started by individuals who have a passion for some outreach. They're looking to provide services to help some part of a particular community. They may have the passion, they just may not have the knowledge about how to go about it and how to do it correctly and how to do it efficiently. And so what we try to do when folks have ideas like that is we try to help them navigate through the process, make sure that they understand what it is to set up a nonprofit, but then what it is to really sustain it, have it be relevant, and have it deliver the results that they're looking to deliver.
I think that's where the most companies fail too, like to sustain the strategy they started with. It derails based on different situations come along.
Times because the founder and the person who had the passion for it, it becomes a scaling problem. It's difficult for them to continue to maintain that level of engagement and involvement because the organization has grown to a point where maybe they can't do it all.
It's challenging.
It's very challenging. And all not-for-profits have some things in common. And there are compliance, as you mentioned, there are compliance issues. You have to have a purpose and you have to have a stated purpose, and that purpose to be an official not-for-profit has to be approved by the IRS. Okay, the Internal Revenue Service has to look at your purpose and look at what you're going to do with the funds that you raise, whether it be a trade association or a philanthropic foundation. They're going to look for what you're going to do with those funds and make sure that they're matching that purpose. The other thing to be aware of is different types of not-for-profits have different types of regulation. So a trade association may be able to do public affairs and lobbying and all, whereas a philanthropic not-for-profit can't do those kinds of things. The other thing is they look at where the funds go to, and not-for-profits have to maintain a certain level of service and diminish the level of administrative. So, for instance, not-for-profit raises $1,000. $900 of that can't go to administration and 100 to the purpose of the mission of the organization. So you've got to watch that ratio and make sure that you maintain those things. You'll often notice if you contribute to a 501c3 not-for-profit organization that when you get a statement back, it'll say no goods or services were exchanged for this contribution.
Right.
So they can't have unintended business income. Right. So there's these types of things that the average person may not recognize, right? They want to do good. They want to serve that community, but they don't know what the pitfalls are. And so a firm like ours, that's where we can help them navigate through that process.
The purpose you talked about, what does it mean really? What I see is like in business with like any other C Corp, S Corp kind of business. I mean, you have to stay in the category of business. That is
Yes.
still compliant requirement, right? In the nonprofit format, what are those guardrails or limitations to stay in the category? For example, like if education related nonprofit to help underprivileged students that deserving but cannot afford the tuition fee. What are those limitations in this kind of a purpose that when it is not supporting tuition fee, is it like has to be government university, public university, or it can be private university or professional education also? Like what are, it can be applicable to healthcare or insurance.
That's why it's very important at the beginning to sit down and really understand what it is that the organization wants to accomplish, who they want to serve, what their purpose, and not only what their purpose, but what their methods of serving the community are. Some organizations want to help provide meals for school children.
Yeah.
So they have a purpose. They want to provide meals for school children. So they can do that by collecting food. They can do that by collecting money and then donating that to school programs for children.
So in this example,
Yeah.
can that same organization provide food to homeless?
Not unless it's in the scope of their purposes, right? Because the reason for that is you have your stated purpose.
Yeah.
And then when you go out to fundraise, you are telling people this is what they are providing the funding for. So I may be very willing to donate to an organization that wants to provide food for children, but for whatever reason, may not be so willing to provide food for homeless. Okay. Now, if you want to expand the scope of that organization, you can say, we want to provide food for people in need.
Okay.
So you can have a broader scope.
Okay.
And then you can segment. We have a program that provides for breakfast program for school children, and we also provide funding for a soup kitchen, or we provide funding for a food bank.
It can go into bylaws of the organization.
Yes.
Like it can go into that.
Yeah. The first step is you provide those purposes in your articles of incorporation.
That's right.
So when you incorporate, your articles of incorporation will embody your purpose statements.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can develop your bylaws. And then you can either put some of those kinds of things in your bylaws, or you can develop policies that support the bylaws. The reason that you might provide a policy as opposed to a bylaws are usually more difficult to change in terms of who has to approve the changes in the bylaws, where policies are usually things that the board of directors can change pretty easily.
Let's talk about like how to form a nonprofit. We all have purposes.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to help the community, giving back to the community. how to begin? What is that framework that you can suggest us? Like how to begin, how to execute, and then
I think the first thing is to do a thorough analysis of what you want to accomplish. So if I use the Stephen Covey line, start with the end in mind, I think that's a very good pace to begin. What does success look like? All right, if you could wave a magic wand and your not-for-profit was up and it was running and it was fully funded, what would it be doing? And based on that, then you can bring that back to decide not only what kinds of processes you need in place, but also what kinds of supporters do you need? Who do you need on your board of directors to be able to help with that, with that mission? Because that's really what it is. So you look at your purposes and you define a vision statement, but you also really look at a mission. What's our mission? And our mission is to deliver food to those in need. And then you come up with how you do that. So once you have those kinds of fundamentals in place, then it's a matter of incorporate. Okay, and that's a legal process. You incorporate, you decide which state you want to be incorporated in, you decide what form of not-for-profit you want to be. C6 in this situation, it would be really a C3 charitable corporation. And there are certain rules of what that means. And then you go through the incorporation process. And once you then incorporate, you apply for a determination letter from the Internal Revenue Service. So incorporation is one step, but that doesn't mean that you're approved by the IRS. You then have to submit your letter for determination that, yes, I qualify as a 501c3. These are the activities that I'm going to do. Here are my initial board members, and you'll get a letter from the IRS. Now, once you have that, then you go on certain approved sites for not-for-profit so that people can look you up and say, yes, this is a legitimate 501c3 organization. This is somebody that is complying with the law, and I'm able to freely provide funding for them with donations to them. The other is where very important is the model for funding. Certain organizations have a philanthropic donor, somebody that is really focused on providing food or education for underserved communities. And so you might be able to work with that type of philanthropic organization that will provide you a certain amount of funding every year. All right. Grassroots funding, type of funding where you're looking for donations from the average person, the average citizen. So how are you going to get that message out to them? How are you going to?
That's about marketing.
Yeah,
and
marketing, but also it's about how to market that, how to communicate it, and then how to collect the funds, and then how to do your report on what you do with it.
Are there compliance rules around marketing and how to raise funding?
Transparency is really the biggest. You can use all of the current types of social media tools. You can use all the traditional marketing. Mail is still used pretty often. Phone calls. You can call communities and look to donate and explain your message there.
Sponsorships?
Yep, sponsorships for sure, right? The only thing that you have to be aware of is that as a charitable association, that you're not giving any kind of goods or services in exchange for the donation. So there can't be any in kind. So if I donate to your foundation, that you're going to promote me as the expert or food to use or the best whatever.
I see.
You can't do that. So there can't be any quid pro quo. All right.
Yes, yeah,
The funding, my contribution to your foundation comes with no strings attached other than what you say you're going to use the money for.
that goes into donation on their. Okay.
Yes. Then it can become a tax-free, tax, I get a statement from you, and it becomes a tax exemption for the donor.
Is bookkeeping different than C Corp, S Corps?
They're a little bit different in the finance rules for not-for-profits in general, because not-for-profits don't talk about balance sheets and income statements. They talk about statement of financial position and statement of activity. Because again, the purpose of this organization is not to make a profit. The purpose is to use the funding to support the mission that they've adopted. Many times you'll have either a working board or an executive committee of the board, really is looking at the long-term strategy, the long-term value, and making sure that there's a proper funding model in place so that the organizations can thrive.
Is there any framework, best practices in the industry, or there is a checklist?
There's a checklist of things when you have to incorporate, and there's a checklist of things that you look at on an annual basis. Board governance, board training, making sure that people who are on the board understand that they have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization.
How it is different, or if you can suggest best practice to go for fundraiser. It's like finding out investors for a business to scale.
There are a number of organizations that are made up of fundraising professionals, people that fundraise for 501c3 type organizations.
One is state, one is IRS. Is there any third department to stay compliant with?
The state in which you're incorporated, you've got to provide a report every year. So that's important to be in compliance with your state regulations. It's very important to be in compliance with your IRS regulations.
I'm gonna ask about like some bigger picture thing, like because all wealthy people have their nonprofits go along, and they donate a lot, and they donate to their own foundation.
Yes.
Mostly. Is it a tax strategy, or it is, of course, there is a purpose, and we do see reserves, we do see activities. I mean, why more wealthy people have foundations visible to all of us and not the ordinary ones?
You can look at the major examples. You look at the Gates, and you look at Bezos, and you look at Warren Buffett. And they've made a stated goal that they will give away most of their fortune. All right, so it's not something that's passing through legacy to family. A small amount is going to that, but really it's more that they are giving away to their to charitable those in need. That's something that they do. There may be tax benefits of it, but it's not really a tax strategy for them. It really is coming from a desire to give away and to give to those that are in need. Most of the charities and foundations really are for that purpose. They're looking to provide education. They're looking to provide access to better food, to better nutrition, to better health care.
Yeah, help in disaster situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The help in disaster situations. So rebuild communities. So you look at Habitat for Humanity, you look at the Red Cross, you look at all these kinds of organizations that are there to help people who are in need, whether that's long-term need or disaster recovery. And I think that's really where it really comes from, that desire to help. And that's why the IRS allows these organizations to raise money and not have to pay tax on it. All right. The whole purpose is to raise the funds
And help the
and then help be able to distribute those funds. That's why there's also restrictions on how much of those funds can be used for administrative purposes. So you couldn't set up a foundation, raise a lot of money, not have to pay tax, and then pay a family member a big salary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, that kind of thing, raises scrutiny from the IRS, and companies have lost their tax exempt status, because they've had too high a ratio on administrative things, especially when those administrative things like salaries would be going to, people who are benefiting from the foundation, not in the way the foundation is intended to be beneficial.
Have you seen such kind of a situation with your clients that they screwed up?
No, fortunately, I have to be honest. Our clients that are in those areas, they have very strict guidelines on what they can do, what they can't do, and we file the tax returns on their behalf, with the board's approval and knowledge, to make sure that they stay in compliance.
Any example outside your business scope?
I would not be the best source of that, but I'm sure that there are circumstances where charities and foundations have gotten investigated because the
As you mentioned, some companies did have lost their IRS charity
yes,
status.
they have.
Okay. In general, what are those mistakes that they could have made?
Well, the biggest mistake is
The ratio?
is misuse of the funds.
Okay, the biggest one.
Look, the biggest one is misuse of the funds. The biggest use is not using the funds for the purposes intended. Obviously, fraud,
Yeah.
misstating,
Yeah.
misrepresenting on their tax returns. Those are the ways that those organizations can get in trouble. Well-intentioned people that are pulling together to form a foundation to try to provide education on conditions, maybe less well-known medical conditions. Those are all those are all really legitimate, and people are looking to do the right thing.
So one is state, one is IRS. Is there any third department to stay comply with?
The state in which you're incorporated, you've got to provide a report every year, right? So that's important to be in compliance with your state regulations. It's very important to be in compliance with your IRS regulations. And then the other thing, it's always a good idea to check, your bylaws and your mission, and to make sure that your activities are relatively in compliance
The internal
with
governance.
your internal governance. Yeah.
That is what you're recommending.
Yeah.
Is there any framework, like publicly best practices in the industry, that you can recommend that is like straight to understand, or
Yeah,
there is a checklist?
there are. There's a checklist of things when you have to incorporate, and there's a checklist of things that you look at on an annual basis. Board governance, board training, making sure that people who are on the board understand that they have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization, and to those that are looking to um, donate and contribute and fund the organization. So those are regularly discussed on an annual basis, especially when you bring new board members on, to orient them, but also what are their legal responsibilities, their responsibility of fiduciary responsibility, of duty of loyalty, duty of care, duty of obedience to the organization. And those are things that we've put together presentations on that we use when we work through board training and board orientation. It'll also orient them on what the purpose of the organization is, how they go about their operations, what their business model is, so that they're fully informed and can make decisions in the best possible way on behalf of the organization.
For example, there are like several frameworks that describe, okay, these 5 pillars, these 5 stages, and here are the minimum benchmarks. So
Right.
is there any like ready thing as such?
There are, you can get them from corporate, whatever. I can provide you with some information, on that. I don't have anything, with me, with you here, but a pretty comprehensive, presentation
Yeah.
that you can go through from, incorporation, right through the board orientation, and then get into the actual key performance indicators for the organization, their success factors, their critical objectives, and their
That'll be
their
great.
results.
Yeah, so that like I can add that in the description, and like audience can take advantage from it, like whoever
Yeah.
wants to get access to that. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah.
You mentioned board members. That's a critical part of it.
Sure.
That they drive strategy, they drive decision making, they influence budget, they influence expense. How to set up board?
And that's a key element, especially when you're talking about the type of philanthropic organization. Having the founder as a vision, knows what he wants to accomplish. And then your board members generally on the foundation will be one of two types. One that can donate and fund, one that can bring access to funding, or has expertise in operational efficiencies and success, or marketing. So you may want to decide on having an actual working board, and then many nonprofits have an advisory board where they will have people come on that can
Yeah.
provide them with access to sponsorship or fundraising opportunities, or service providers for delivering what the organization is looking to deliver to the community. So in many times you'll have either a working board or an executive committee of the board that does most of the day-to-day operations and decision making, and then you'll have an advisory board that really is looking at the long-term strategy, the long-term value, and making sure that there's a proper funding model in place so that the organizations can thrive.
How it is different, or if you can suggest best practice to go for fundraiser. It's like finding out investors for a business to scale. Is there a same strategy? It works differently? Is there a guideline for it?
It's different than an investment strategy for a corporation or for because they're looking for a return.
Yeah.
Right? Those investors are looking for a return on their investment. Here, the funders are really looking, their return is really in seeing the success of the foundation providing those services to the community.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of a ratio for them. But I think that there are a number of organizations that are made up of fundraising professionals, people that fundraise for 501c3
Yeah.
type organizations. They can provide fundraising strategies. They can provide guidance to where to look for investors or funders. They can also provide how you should report your results so that they're clearly in compliance with the goals. And they also, once you've got the other piece of it, once you've got some capital, there are also fundraising professionals that can help you with investment strategies.
Oh, so there are agencies that can connect all these
Yeah.
dots and make the organization successful.
There's organizations and there's these fundraising professionals. Some of them are companies and some of them are individuals.
Okay.
And they will help and work with a nonprofit to provide them with tools and suggestions on how to raise money, how to grow the money that they've raised, and how to have a good plan of how to properly distribute it. How much can you distribute on any given year?
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
because again, you want to make sure that you're maintaining a reserve that's growing,
Yeah.
so that you're not depleting your funding on every year.
Yeah. Keep the bloodline going.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Any recommendation or anything that you want to share in addition to what we have discussed so far that is useful for anyone with a purpose?
Yeah, I think this is a great topic, because in today's society, so much of the assistance that people get are from uh, organizations that are devoted to delivering these kinds of services. So the government can't do everything, doesn't do everything. They do a lot, but they don't do everything. And so where these needs, so you've got different kinds of organizations that provide, again, meals for school children, meals for for homeless, meals for people who are below a certain income level. So food banks, disaster relief. So I think that really focusing on what they want to accomplish, making sure that they've got good, reputable people around them, and then having a strategy for not only how to bring money in, but how to use the money so that you don't deplete your reserves and that the money is going to its best use.
Great conversation, Ross. It's very useful. I learned a lot today. And I hope audience will take an advantage as well, because we all have purposes, we all want to help, but at times we just don't have directions,
Right.
and the roadmap in front of us, and then we stay running in loops.
There's also some website links that I can probably provide to you they rank associations, not for profit associations, for charitable foundations, so that people can go there and they can look up a particular organization and they'll see whether they're approved, they're IRS approved,
Oh, I see.
and that they can donate. That they can.
Oh, so there are indexes as such, people can
Yeah.
validate the organization. Yeah, that is good to know as well. And I appreciate you sharing all that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's a way for the average person who gets a solicitation letter in the mail, right? Very important point. When you get solicitation in the mail or by phone, very important to distinguish between an organization that's a 501c3 charity and one that might be not a 501c3 charity, might be a C6, or it might be some kind of a political action committee.
Okay.
Right? Not trying to distinguish that one is better than the other. They're different, and the deductibility of your contribution is vastly different. So, political action committee or some political campaign, you can't deduct those funds, whereas a 501c3 charity you can.
And that's for donors.
For the donors, yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, you want to make sure that
sometimes we don't even look at the type of organizations we are sending money to.
That's right. And it's very important. And you need to be on the alert for, especially on the phone conversations. Sometimes those people that have been hired to raise funds don't really explain that. That's another thing just to be aware of, is that, if you think you are donating to a legitimate 501c3 charitable foundation or association, they should be able to tell you that, and then your donation should be met with a receipt that says you've donated this amount on this date and you're eligible for a tax deduction.
That's a pro tip.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raf.
All right.
Thank you for being here.
Very good.
I appreciate your presence today. Thanks.
Pleasure. Anytime. Let me know how I can help.
And that's a wrap on this episode. As I look back over our journey so far, I'm struck by something far more significant than our metrics. I'm struck by the caliber of the conversations we have built together. To you, our viewers, thank you. Your time is the most valuable asset you own, and the fact that you choose to spend it here, I do not take it lightly, and I do everything possible in my control to create the value content for you. At this show, we are not interested in winning the race for volume. We are committed to quality over quantity. Our goal is not to fill your feed, but to fuel your perspective. We are building a platform focused on big picture insights that actually move the needle in your life and your career. We are still in our early chapters, and I'm grateful to have you with us as we build something designed to last. Thank you for your trust and your continued support. If you value this perspective and our agenda, I invite you to subscribe and join us in building this mission. Thank you.